Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all today. Our conversation today will be about the future of crafts. Our discussion will revolve around defining ways to integrating technology and crafts. First, to define technology, it is a science of craft. The word technology signifies a repetitive system to produce an outcome. Traditional craftsmanship preserves the beauty of diligent works, created by various cultures and presented by bringing forth the steps forward to create a product. As a result of globalization and innovation, it is a challenge to find ways to preserve the past craft's identity in a world that's consistently being updated with new technologies and interconnected digital platforms. For this reason, Irthi Contemporary Crafts Council collaborated with Opera Amsterdam, Studio Show, Studio Louter to launch Hiraf app, in which our panel will be followed by a workshop for everyone to participate in. Hiraf is an app that utilizes the current iPad technology to educate the crafts, including the Safiva and the Teli weaving that we practice at our council. Now, for the weaving techniques, having such app would help the technological tools to conserve the techniques of making crafts for the future generations. Before we explore the topic further, please note, due to our allotted time, we will be taking the questions after the panel. The panelists and our team will be happy to speak to you about the app and to introduce you with the workshop that follows our panel. Now, I would like to introduce our respective panelists. Ms. Denise Bax, Chief of Communication, Cities and Unit with the Culture Sector of UNESCO, where she heads the coordination of UNESCO Creative Cities Network and the UNESCO Cities Platform. Over 20 years of experience at the UNESCO, she has been involved in the promotion of culture and creativity through strengthening the international visibility of various creative programs. Furthermore, her engagement and comprehensive outreach with various stakeholders of the 2005 Convention of the Protection and the Promotion of Diversity of Cultural Expressions, and beyond, her support and development helped the expansion of this convention. Followed by our next panelist will be Eileen Conan, content designer from Studio Louter. She's an experienced content designer who will be joining us virtually and will be demonstrating the history of working in museums and the culture industry. As a content designer, she develops concepts, storylines, and exhibits designs and multimedia for museums all over the world. With her educational background, her expertise lays in engaging younger target audience. Anita Johnson, she's a programmer and visual storyteller from Studio Show. As a programmer and a visual storyteller, she is responsible of interactive works, illustrations, and animations. From the creative process of starting to storyboarding, worked on a range of projects. She worked with the Maritime Archaeology Museum in Sweden and the Biodiversity Museum of Bergen University. And lastly, we have Rayam Mismar. She's an Emirati designer living and working in the UAE. She works in the field of arts, design, and culture, and currently working in the field of craft. Rayam Mismar received her Bachelor's of Science in Visual Communication from the American University of Sharjah, and she undergone training from accredited institutions in Basel and New York. The production of her work were exhibited at London Design Fair, and she's currently a designer at the Irthi Contemporary Crafts Council. And finally, myself, Shahad Al-Hammadi. I'm working as a senior executive at Irthi, focusing on research and crafts documentation. Now, to start with our panel, heritage crafts are difficult to teach, as every design and skill needs a precise system of implementation and attention. Currently, people's attention span is decreasing because of our current fast-paced lifestyle. Our interconnected world is a result of globalization, creating difficulty to sustain such a sense of identity of the craft is an issue that we are facing, and we can bring forth by innovating new technologies in order to preserve the creative works. So First, to explore why we would need such technology for our crafts, the first question would be, how could we find a way and understand and define the issues in honing creativity in the creative heritage as a result of globalization and technology? For this question, I would like to direct it to Ghaya to answer it further.
Okay. Thank you, Shahad, for your introduction. I want to take a moment and thank the Expo team, the Women's Pavilion team, and the Cartier team for hosting me today. I'm very happy to be here. To answer your question, Shahad, at Irthi Contemporary Crafts Council, one of our mandates is to evolve crafts within the Minnesota region, preserve them, and transfer knowledge to future generations. We've come to find out that people usually associate craft with exclusivity, which highlighted a niche market that is interested in craft-based practice. So we always strive in Irthi to keep craft relevant, relatable, and engaging. We believe with translating craft into technology and using different streams, platforms, and mediums, craft can become accessible to a wider audience. Following our participation in London Design Fair, where we launched 78 new products and 2 initiatives, the exhibition was meant to be a traveling exhibition. But because of the pandemic, we adjusted our plans and we translated this exhibition virtually, which led to what we call the virtual gallery. The virtual gallery allows a user to explore Irthi's range of crafted designed objects. We didn't stop there, and we invested time and research in finding ways to utilize technology-associated platforms within our practice in Irthi, which led to the launch of an interactive 360-degree virtual experience. The virtual experience showcases Irthi's latest craft collection, and it is set in a surreal virtual landscape. What's really interesting about the virtual experience is that it has room for growth and it can develop into a larger archive where multiple collections can be hosted on this digital platform. After seeing the successful level of interaction that took place with these digital platforms, we decided to create a new interactive experience, but this time focusing on game and app development. And I also want to say that with every platform that Irthi has created, it has attended to a specific community, which helped the council transfer knowledge to the youth and a wider number of users.
And as you said, by reaching the youth, we are for sure taking in consideration the new kind of technologies that interest them. And this is why, because of our collaboration, Anita and Eileen would be discussing more from their perspective how this is an issue as well. And they could also answer it. Hello, Eileen and Anita. We could start with you first, Eileen, from your perspective to answer the first question.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you because it's a great honor to join this session. And the question you ask is a very big one with a very big answer. And I must say I'm only able to answer a small part of that based on what I see in the cultural sector and heritage industry. And I see a lot of museums who are facing the challenge of preserving crafts in a changing world, and rightfully so, because it's very important that we do that, not only for the sake of keeping the crafts alive and the skills that are part of it, but also because crafts are a very important way for us to engage with our past and to connect with our cultural identity. So reviving crafts is something vital that we have to do, and in order to do that, we have to pass it on to new generations. and these have also new preferences. So one way to update crafts to these newer generations is to innovate in design and to make sure that the designs of traditional crafts suit to modern tastes and utilities. And since I am not an Irthi employee, I am free to say that I think Irthi is doing a brilliant job in just that by incorporating contemporary materials and designs in their traditional craft products. And of course, a way that Anita and I are focusing on is innovation in the way that we present crafts by modernizing their stories. And as you said, today's audience is used to a very fast pace and they're digital savvy, which can be challenging because crafting is a very time-consuming effort, and it's also intricately detailed. So there lies a challenge in bridging the difference in pace without losing the essence of the craft. And in addition to that, the audiences also have the ability to choose from very many different ways to spend their free time, while also having access to very high quality games made by worldwide companies where hundreds of people are working on making their fantastic product even more fantastic. And the cultural sector is facing a challenge that they had to compete with that while having very low, or not very low, but having lower budgets than commercial companies. So this is quite a challenge, but I do believe that digital technology has the ability to pass on these traditional crafts to the new generation in a very engaging and playful way, and making the crafts comprehensible so that the skills can be passed on as well.
Thank you, Elaine. And from your perspective, Anita, as a programmer and a visual storyteller, how do you think this is an issue, and what's your perspective and experience about this topic?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me here. It's an honor, like Elaine said. I actually have not very much to add to what Elena has already said. People nowadays are they have easy access to worldwide knowledge, thanks to the internet. They are accustomed to a lot of different forms of media that teach them in different ways about an unlimited amount of subjects. And I believe their experience with multimedia is something that can be used to reach them. And I believe reaching them through digital arts, digital ways is important, but the aim should never be to exactly copy the traditional craft through digital technology. Instead, I think it's important to use the technology to complement the traditional crafts, so the two can exist at the same time, actually.
Thank you, Anita. And as you said, by both of you, as like now how we're trying to tackle the interest of the youth by those in technology and the time they use in their spare time, I mean, when they're having a day off, or for example, in their breaks, they use this kind of technology. So for us, it could be also a benefit by tackling this and bringing forth the crafts in a new way for them to use those technologies in that time and get introduced about the techniques and the system that they can tell their own stories, or they can integrate their own thoughts about it. And as currently present designs and the design tools do include 3D printing and digital illustrations, it became a vital tool for the creation of traditional tangible crafts. There are many ways that they could be explored and to merge both spectrums of the traditional and the digital. And Ghaya, from your perspective, how could we utilize the present technologies in design and craft?
Okay. One of the challenges that we're trying to overcome today is the lack of interest from the youth in learning these crafts. And the reason being is that craft was not progressing with design. It was seen as something that lies in heritage context. It cannot be changed in any way or form. It was seen as something that cannot be modernized or developed in any contemporary manner. So the youth no longer associate and relate to these crafts. But I have to say, with the development of the crafts and Irthi taking the initiative of creating a dialogue between the heritage and the contemporary by introducing new materials and experimenting with different weaving techniques, designs, and colors, we did manage to get we did manage to spark the interests of artists, designers, brands to incorporate these crafts into their products, furniture, and art, which made these crafts more appealing to the youth. For example, in بالح we got the younger artisans interested in the practice of craft, where they became interested in learning and wanting to learn how to weave, whereas initially they were quite opposed to it. However, we're still keen on reaching and interacting with a younger audience that might not necessarily be involved in art and design. And one way of doing that is through technology. That is where the idea of the game came from. The idea is to develop a game with the aim to educate and bring awareness to these crafts. The game that we ended up developing explains the step-by-step process to achieving a weaving technique. I believe craft and technology are closely intertwined. Building a program is equivalent to creating a product. Writing code on its own is a craft. And this hybrid between craft and technology brings on a new experience, appreciation, excitement, and a new level of interaction and so many possibilities for development.
Thank you, Raya. And Anita, from your perspective, what do you think about this matter when it comes to technology and including it with the craft?
Oh, sorry.
You go ahead.
No, Elena, go ahead.
Well, what I liked about the technology is that for a lot of people, you don't have access to the knowledge of these traditional crafts. You have to look on the internet where there's very little to find. And in this way, we can present the craft techniques and how they work in a very step-by-step way. So you can quite easily get acquainted with the first steps into these traditional crafts and hopefully also make the audience enthusiastic to pick it up and build on that first spark of interest and try to continue doing these crafts and getting that knowledge in first instance to those audiences is a way I think digital media can be very useful in.
Okay. So as many educational institutions and programs introducing initiatives to educate the youth in the realm of crafts, Irthi Contemporary Crafts Council launched her Fati program several years ago. The youth are the future of every community. Educating them and improving their skills to practice what their ancestors crafted will enable them to celebrate their culture and innovate further. Nowadays, digital technologies and apps can make knowledge transfer more exciting for the youth. As for that, Hiraf is an app developed by the council that will be launched today to answer what Elaine and Anita were saying by bringing forth various technologies and by supporting us in creating this app and taking it further. The app Hiraf will ease the process of educating the youth about Telly and the Safifa craft. Raya, from your perspective, how can we have that process transferred by this app, and why do you think it's important for us to introduce such program like Hiraf?
We're hoping through this app, people can see a connection between craft and technology that may have not been obvious before. Creatives, designers, students don't have to think of craft as a separate discipline, but as something that can be integrated in modern art, design, machinery, and robotics. Going back to the Hiraf app, I have to say it was quite a process to reach to where we are today with the app. Initially, we wanted to incorporate the crafts using the traditional materials, tools, and techniques that are associated with each craft. But during the documentation process, we felt the need to simplify these crafts like we do in our youth program, Hirfati. So we replaced the strands with leather for both crafts, and by doing so, the process became less overwhelming, more diagrammatic, and easy to understand. We had to remove some elements, such as the kajuja. The kajuja is the stand that supports the cylindrical cushion on which the teli is weaved, but we hinted at it through different icons and keys in the game. It was really important for us to create a game that's fun and exciting, and of course it needed to be graphically interesting and visually appealing. We also added extra engaging factors to keep the youth connected, so as a user would play the game multiple times, the process of creating a weave becomes more ingrained. And it becomes more ingrained. And we also added, we made it rewarding with a physical outcome as a reward. The physical outcome is the 3D printing element that we added. And the 3D printing element that we added allows the user to physically touch the weave and have a sense of it once he or she has achieved it in the game. And the user also has the choice to print these weaves in any material of their choice. Before launching the app, we conducted a survey with the team and so many other people until we reached a point where it was satisfying to pursue from whatever background and age group you're from. I also want to say that even though we did have the youth in mind when we created this app, but it is still directed towards adults. Adults can play, enjoy, and learn. Finally, the way I see, or how this game can be in the long term, it can be adapted to many levels, techniques, crafts, as the Council has developed over 25 designs of Safifa and over 60 designs of Telli, some of them being very intricate. But this is a start for us. We're really we're really just at the very beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Aya. Yeah, and I do see that we might take the levels further in the app and maybe develop like competitions or something for the youth that could integrate their learning with understanding the crafts, and maybe extend the library of the crafts that will be including it. And because there are many crafts that are still being practiced today by older generation, the young designers could innovate and utilize their modern practice for a designer to be able to develop his career path or her career path. She or he should consider the sustainability while integrating the heritage to develop new designs. As a result, they will enable them to use crafts as a tool to share their creativity with their community. Elaine, this question would be directed first to you, and it would be about what's the impact of such dialogue on the global creative economy when it comes to having the crafts practiced in an innovative way in the same time while integrating the digital technologies?
Well, I think what we're doing right now, integrating crafts and technology, is a pioneering work. So there are many things that many challenges that we face throughout the design process that will help us creating new insights to make the integration between technology and crafts even better. So, for example, we know how important it is right now to work with local parties like yourself, because you can't make a digital app about a craft without knowing how that craft works. But it was very difficult to find material and study the different crafts. And unfortunately, Irthi was able to create that footage themselves by inviting craft women to live crafts and with the camera zoomed on their hands so that we could decipher the different steps and really have an understanding of how that craft worked in order to be able to translate it. And another challenge that we faced was trying to find a balance in simplifying the craft without doing injustice to the complexity of that craft. One way to do that is exploring new design patterns. So for example, we have this digital savvy generation that is used to a certain set of design patterns. Because if you go to a website, for example, you know how to scroll down, you know where to go to the home button because that is what you're used to. And these design patterns don't exist yet for digital craft tasks. So we are standing in those exploration and pioneering steps, trying to create design patterns that match the crafts of yesterday with the design patterns of today.
Thank you, Elaine. And as a creative yourself, as you just said, when the youth wants to consider bringing forth the heritage crafts while integrated to the technology, they should take care about the details. And as you said, it might be difficult to define such small things, yet they're very essential when they're using the technology to grasp and archive and document the designs, while at the same time having it connected into the new kind of works of technology. And as a programmer, Anita, what's your perspective on this matter?
Well, it was really interesting to create this because while we go from a traditional 3D experience to a digital 2D experience, which makes it quite challenging to recreate the tangible experience of weaving and braiding. Traditional crafts are, of course, 3D. You can hold them in your hand and feel their structure and turn them around in every angle. And the app we created for an iPad, which is a 2D surface. So the challenge there is to find a balance between the real craft and the technical limitations and possibilities of the iPad to create something that is new and exciting and doing justice to the original craft. If you like, I can mention two specific challenges we encountered for the app. I think for Safifa, the main challenge was, well, we first started to recreate the real technique, but we had to switch away from that because when we try to stay as close to the real deal as possible by weaving and moving strands with using your fingertips and making a swipe movement. But that didn't work for two reasons. The first reason being that it made the game difficult to understand. People did not quite expect that the movement that was created by their movement, by their swiping, which led to frustration for the players. And the second reason is that we couldn't exactly mimic the real feeling of going over and under another strand because of the 2D flat surface that we had. So actually we had to take a step back from the original craft and tried to make it feel more like a game. So we added the sense of time pressure and now use buttons instead of a swipe movement. And now suddenly the game is more fun and easy to understand, and it's more engaging, and that's what we were aiming for.
Okay.
And then for Tali, actually the challenge was to recreate the intricate natural behavior of the strands, because in real life, when you make a braid, two or more strands will collide and intertwine with each other. But a computer does not automatically understand this principle of moving different strands in front or behind each other. So on the computer, the strands will not intertwine, but they will move through each other, like they never touch each other. And now we can tell a computer, of course, that strands have mass and that they should collide instead of go straight through each other. But this costs calculation power, and since we were developing for the iPad, we wanted to have as little of this calculation power as possible, because each collision, for each collision, the power that you need increases. And since Tali is such a complex braid, even the simplest form, it can easily get way too heavy for a computer to keep up with it. So we had to keep it as small as possible for that. We helped the computer a little bit by breaking the process into smaller steps. And for this reason, some parts of the braid are not done by the player, but are done through animation. And additionally, this decision also made the game easier to understand for the player, which was nice, because as we noticed, Tali is very difficult to grasp when you play it for the first time.
And I tried playing the game myself. It was a bit difficult at first to understand how to work with the telly and understand how to weave it. And even my siblings and my cousins, they tried the app and they downloaded it, and they really enjoyed the FIFA first, then the telly, when they started understanding the craft. And as you both said, in consideration to any youth who is considering the design career in the future, they should be aware and needs to have that balance and understanding about what current technologies that are off the market, what's coming next, and what's as well important when it comes to preserving the identity of the craft techniques and the weaving, in order to create a future in which the industry of crafts is a sustainable industry. How can crafts today be integrated in the jobs of the youth when it comes to design and arts? This question would be addressed to Denise Bax, who offered to close our Expo session for the year. And we will now play a pre-recorded video from the UNESCO to share this answer.
Dear Irthi team, dear experts and friends, it is my great pleasure to participate in this roundtable discussion as part of Expo 2020 Dubai under the theme Crafting the Future. I would like to congratulate the creative city of Sharjah for organizing this event, and more particularly to the Irthi Contemporary Crafts Council for providing us with this opportunity to reflect on the potential synergies for a sustainable future when crafts meet technology. UNESCO believes in the potential of crafts and folk art and their central role in shaping a sustainable future. Indeed, from Como to Tunis and from Trinidad to Sharjah, the creative cities are committed to enhancing the attractiveness of the craft sector and making it a dream job for youth. In order to create a sustainable future in which the craft sector will be an essential contributor, be it economically, socially, and environmentally, creative cities have put the emphasis on education and access to culture and creativity for all through crafts and folk art. In the wake of COVID-19, to ensure that the local youth population received the necessary emotional and physical assistance, the creative city of Ayacucho in Peru took decisive action with its Open Schools initiative, comprising a series of online education workshops with a key focus on the local crafts heritage. By leveraging technology, in particular interaction and support, these activities boosted children's activity, well-being, and paved the way for the city's future development, moving into a post-pandemic era. Similarly, as a means of preserving Trinidad's traditional needlepoint techniques, the city launched the Women Weaving the Future project, providing design, sewing, embroidery, and weaving courses to young women, giving them lifelong skills and a source of income. Indeed, thanks to new technology and communication channels, engaging in the field of crafts has become more sustainable economically for the new generation, thus more appealing as a career option and pursuit. It is in this perspective that many creative cities have successfully been using communication technologies to increase the visibility of artisans and expand the outreach of their productions and services. In March 2020, Sharjah launched the online Irthi virtual gallery, showcasing the city's cultural heritage and creativity, while offering craftspeople the opportunity to promote and market their works directly, thereby mitigating the impact of the pandemic on creative industries and professionals. Similarly, with its Shoulder Shop application, the municipality of Shoulder Leg in Ecuador demonstrated the city's dedication to find innovative and integrated tech-based responses to face the pandemic. It also acted as a bridge between the city's artisans and global consumers, providing continued revenue for the creative sector whilst promoting the city's rich cultural assets. Furthermore, through international, intercity, and intersectoral cooperation threatened by new technology and communication platforms, UNESCO Creative Cities are also exploring the future role of craftspeople in the sustainable cities of tomorrow. In September 2021, the city of Carrara in Italy hosted the online creativity Forum for Sustainable Development. This forum brought together different stakeholders to engage in a series of debates, meetings, and collaborative activities regarding post-pandemic recovery, the crucial role of artists and craftspeople in urban design, and how to expand participation to meet the modern urban needs of the inhabitants. Carrara plans to see the forum become an annual event, leveraging art as a resilient engine for post-pandemic urban regeneration and promoting social inclusion with youth in urban projects. Finally, fusing technology with crafts can also lead to numerous possibilities in terms of artisanal and artistic production and innovation for craftspeople, especially for the new tech-savvy generations, thus reinforcing the appeal of this promising sector. The aforementioned initiatives are just a few examples of how creative cities of crafts and folk art worldwide are working towards making crafts a sustainable sector able to attract support and inspire the youth and generations to come. In this endeavor, technology offers incredible and endless opportunities yet to be explored. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, UNESCO and Ms. Denise Bax, for your kind input. I would like to thank Expo 2020, Women's Pavilion, and Cartier for hosting Irthi Contemporary Crafts Council throughout the year to help raise awareness on the crafts preservation and the women empowerment. I would like to thank you and to invite you to participate in the iPad workshop. Each one of you will receive an iPad from an Irthi team member sitting on your row. The game will teach you how to weave the telly or sefifa. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask any Irthi team member. And you could also download the Harif app on your personal iPad from the Apple Store. Thank you, everyone.